Hi, welcome back on board. This is the fifth in a series of motovlogs we did of a motorcycle trip around the North and South Island of New Zealand in 2017. We'd stayed overnight in Wanganui and we're making our way down the west coast towards Wellington. We'd planned to spend 3 or 4 days in Wellington, as when we were heading north originally we just cruised through, got off the ferry and went directly heading up towards Napier and so on. The roads, like the rest of the trip, first class from Wanganui down that west coast all the way to Wellington, and not disappointed by some fantastic scenery that you can see as we're cruising along. Wellington was a place I said we wanted to stay for 3 or 4 days and have a good look around the city, and it was well worth the stay. We'd booked into the museum hotel, something we'd seen online, and it was a boutique hotel right in the middle of the city, and there's a few shots of the outside of the hotel, and from the word go you can see there's a Harley chopper in the front window, and the building itself was, apart from the absolutely first class service and accommodation, was full of artwork and motorcycles, and it sort of ticked all the boxes for the sort of stuff we wanted to see. And from there we spent the next couple of days just looking around Wellington and going out for dinner and catching up a few museums, and did quite a few day rides around the coastal area of Wellington. Caught up on a bit of R&R, and our next move was to catch the ferry from Wellington back over to Picton for the last leg down through the South Island, heading back to Christchurch. Once again, the ferry crossing from Wellington over to Picton was just a perfect day, really flat seas, you can see by some of the photos. We'd spent a couple of days in Picton on the way up, so once we got off the ferry we were heading down to a place called Blenheim for an overnight stay. One of the reasons we wanted to call it Blenheim was a fairly good aircraft and motor museum in Blenheim, plus there's quite a bit to look around the countryside. Our next day's travel was from Blenheim. As I mentioned, the road down the coast had been closed, so we were going back through Murchison. That area out of Blenheim is through the Marlborough wine region of New Zealand, and there's quite a few shots of wineries, and that we called in and spent a day poking in around about that part of the country on the top end of the South Island. It certainly was a great day, and once again, as I said, the weather favoured us pretty well, and we had a really good time. Trip from there further south, heading to the next overnight stop at Hanmer Springs. A lot of traffic. As I said, that coast road was closed, so everything from the South Island going south towards Christchurch was coming down that road, and it took us a fair old run to get through it all. This bit of footage here is the last couple of kilometres heading into Hanmer Springs. Hanmer Springs predominantly is a fairly major ski resort area in the season, but it's all surrounded also by a lot of rivers and lakes. You can do everything from jet boat trips up and down the various rivers, and there's quite a few hot spa motel type things in the town. We stayed in the centre of Hanmer Springs, and over the road from us was their main swimming centre, which was also a hot pool spa area, and we spent a couple of hours there, had a great time and just chilled out before heading off the next day for our last run going south. We skirted around Christchurch and we're heading down to Akaroa, and I can see why so many bike riders in Christchurch love this run from Christchurch down to Akaroa. Fantastic roads, great countryside, good bike riders sort of trip. Akaroa was another place that surprised us by what a beautiful area it was. Fairly concentrated French connection in the town of Akaroa. Was originally, in the very early days, the 1850s, French trading and whaling town, and it's maintained quite a lot of that character, and they've kept the town up, and obviously it's paid off given the amount of tourists that were travelling through the area. spent quite most of the afternoon around Akaroa, just going out on various roads around the coastline and the main town. As I said, fairly busy tourist area, very pretty, a heap of restaurants and accommodation if you want to stay in the downtown area. We stayed a little bit out of town at a place called Mount Vernon Lodge, sort of sat up on the hillside overlooking the whole Bay Area. Really great place to stay, and the people were really hospitable. Large two-storey cabined area with a communal log fire area, and we really enjoyed our stay. It paid off pretty well for the next day, because it was the first time virtually on our whole trip that we managed to get any rain. Came in fairly early in the morning, which is sort of a light rain, but it sort of misted on for quite a bit of the morning, so we were able to stay in the cabin till late in the morning when it started to lift, and then we were making our last and final push back through to Christchurch before racking and stacking the bikes and heading home to Oz. After leaving Akaroa, our main destination now was back to Christchurch, where we were going to rack and stack the bikes at the transport yard and get them ready to go home. Kathy and I had been to Christchurch before in 2010 and remember what a beautiful city it was. Unfortunately, it had two major earthquakes since then, in 2011 and 2016, and for Lauren, she probably didn't see Christchurch at its best, but it's certainly a major rebuilding program going on at the moment, and it's starting to take shape. If you get the opportunity to go over to New Zealand, I urge you to either hire a bike or take your bike over. The country's absolutely magnificent for bike riding, and the people are so friendly. We had a fantastic time, and we're looking forward to going back on another trip in the future.